Hello to everyone watching on YouTube and listening on Spotify. It's another episode of NRG Insights. For those that don't know, this is a podcast that obviously giving insights to the financial services industry. So whether that be industry leaders, someone with a really good story, or generally people that can kind of add value to the financial services industry. So today I've got Kelsey Phillips from Arose Finance. Thanks for joining me, Kelsey.
Thank you for having me, Marcus. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good, really good. I'm genuinely excited to hear your story as well because we've kind of briefly touched on it, and I think your journey is very different from a lot of other people. So I think it's much more interesting in the way you come into it and kind of rocketed in your first couple of years. But I'll let you explain that. So talk to me about your not just your financial services journey, about your journey as to where we are now.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for that. Yeah, it's a little bit niche. So I think perhaps it could be interesting to start. Most of my career, actually, I was pursuing in football. So spent, did my 10,000 hours by the time I was about 13, I think, and then was pursuing, professional career. Now, women's football, when I was playing, wasn't really the career path that it is now. The WSL Women's Super League has gone bananas, and they're
Yeah,
selling out
only
stadiums for.
recently there, right?
Yeah, only well since we won the Euros, and it's just
Yeah,
like international friendlies now are selling out Wembley, which is bananas. But when I was
nuts.
coming up, the England captain was also a postwoman. Everyone had a full time job
Yeah,
alongside training full time as well. So I was very much pursuing that. Kind of things to mention: represented the county. I was flying to Ireland for trials for the under-17s World Cup. Um, if you wanted to make it, you had to go out to the States. So I did a stint in the States as well. But I was essentially riddled with hamstring injuries. If you met me now, we've not met face to face, but I'm actually quite a tall girl. But when I was pursuing my career, I was tiny. I'd be the smallest on the pitch. So I had a sudden growth spurt, loads of hamstring injuries, and I took the opportunity after my GCSEs. Got these results, and I was like, they're not my results. So there must be someone. Are you sure these have not been swapped? And it got me into a sixth form, which changed my life really. So very good sixth form in England, all boys' school apart from a handful of girls, and yeah, basically went down the education route. So left football behind me, studied my A levels, and took a gap year out to also do an extra A level in maths, further
mm.
maths, and I did some work experience. And this is really where my journey into financial services starts. So by the grace of God, beg, borrowing, and stealing, I got an internship in the way back office, essentially the post room of UBS, right? And it was a 2 week placement off cycle, just basically in the post room. I got there on
Yeah.
my first day, and they said, "We've got thousands of ISDA agreements. If you don't know what an ISDA agreement is, you don't need to. Basically, very, very boring, long documents. They wanted to digitize them, and they tasked me with the job of getting these thousands of documents put onto a
How
computer."
exciting for your first financial
I
motion.
know.
Services jobs don't start interesting, do they?
I'm surprised I persisted with it after that.
Yeah.
So I'd get in basically. I had it in my head that I wanted to try and get onto the trading floor from the start. I was in UBS. I was kind of under the hood of the business. I would get in literally first train into the office, try and do all my work for the day by about 1 p.m. And then I'm sure they must have said, "Where's Kelsey?" in the afternoon. So I'd sneak off and I would try to get onto the trading floor. Now, if anyone's ever been on a trading floor, you can't just walk into a trading floor. You've got to have passes. It's kind of
Yeah.
very high
Were you walking around with the
security.
mail just to try and get
Yeah,
it?
this is for you and this is for you. So I would stand there outside the door until, probably shouldn't be admitting this, but this is what I did to get in. So I would stand there outside the door I guess I would have been 18 years old, and waited for someone to come out and I'd slip in. So I did this every single day. And by the end of the first week, someone said to me, "Who are you interning with?" And I was like, "Oh, it's someone over there." Really, it's like up on the
Yeah,
eighth
yeah.
floor,
Not the
back room.
postman. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
literally. But by the grace of God, someone liked me, and they said, "We like your determination. We're going to invite you back on the spring week." Now, spring week, to get into investment banking, you've kind of got to be on cycles. You do the spring week, which is 2 weeks in the first year of uni. Then you do your summer internship, and then a handful of people get offered a job.
Yeah.
On to the spring week, they invite me back, luckily, to the summer. they'd given me a tough task. I think they kind of knew that I was, a bit of I'd broken my way in there, perhaps in ways that others hadn't. So they said, right, Kelsey, on your summer internship, we'd like you to build an algorithm. I said, what? First of all, what's an algorithm? That's what I was thinking.
Good at coding before that?
No coding, nothing. It'd be exactly like asking you, perhaps. How do you, or asking my mum or dad, how do you
Whoa, why
make
would
an
you put us all in the same category?
Yes.
Me or your mum and dad?
Yes. Sorry. I don't know how to dig my way out of that one, but I had assumed from what you said that you were also not a coder. Neither are my parents.
No.
So neither was I. So they basically asked me to build this algorithm. So I spent 6 weeks basically, and we say algorithm. I didn't actually deliver an algorithm. I delivered ideas on when you should buy and when you should sell.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, okay, it was basically trigger based. If this happens, this happens, this happens, buy, this happens, this happens, sell. And by the grace of God, 2 days before I was presenting the algorithm, I back tested it and it had made a hell of a lot of money. It was by the grace of God, basically. So I went into the meeting.
Can I just say this? Because you said grace of God loads of times. It sounds like you worked really hard. You know what I mean? 'Cause you said, I was quite lucky to get in here, and then I was lucky with the exam. Like, you've clearly worked really hard to get where you are, and I know most people come on here to talk about how lucky they are by the grace of God, but actually that's sheer determination, right? Like, you didn't have to go into that trading floor, you didn't have to work, even like down to your exams and stuff. I'm assuming that's hard graft.
Yeah, it is blood, sweat, and tears, basically. And no one also to say, no one in my family went to university. Certainly, no one where I come from. I was raised in Essex. As I'm coming on to, no one really worked in the industry. To be honest, no one. You just didn't see it. So, but you do. You, as you say, you make your own luck, and it's also in you. You've got a vision for yourself. So this was me as young 18, 19-year-old me, absolutely driven. So I pitched this mechanism, and I said, look, if you'd have given me, it was £25,000 DVO1, right? So 25k DVO1. Over the 3 months prior, I would have made 1.9 million. So that was my pitch. As if you'd have given me that, I would have turned it into this at the end of the internship. They had offered me a job in Zurich, which is the UBS headquarters, and I was set. I was going to Zurich, going into my final year of uni at this point in time, heading off and coming back from football training, right? So I'm walking back, pouring rain this day, it mud all down me. And I went to uni in Bristol. Again, not a perhaps it's excellent uni, but also for the top tier investment banks, not one of the it was Oxbridge, Oxbridge, Harvard, Yale, etc. So I'm walking back, and I see all these people in suits queuing outside of our memorial building, which is where you get graduated. Only suits, only smart attire. Certainly not trainers. Certainly not studs, and not mud and pouring rain. They're all queuing outside, and I can see in there they've got an investment banking fair, and there's Goldman Sachs waiting there. Something came over me. It must have been the endorphins after football training. You know what? I'm just going to go in there. So I literally walked, and it's not really like me, I'm not bolshy like this. I literally walked to the front of the queue, past everyone, in my studs.
Everyone assumed you weren't going for it because you're dressed in
Someone's forgot their shin pads at the back of the hall. That's what they're thinking. and so the HR recruiter for Goldman Sachs was talking with someone, a long queue of people behind, and they kind of in shock turned to me, and I said, first of all, I'm so sorry that I'm dressed totally inappropriately. Can I just say, I'm going to Zurich in 3 months' time. I have a job offer. There is one company that I would leave them for, and it would be you. I said, let me just send you my CV. If you don't like it, don't reply. And I think, knowing the industry now, they like a bit of the like we'll give you a hard time if you're putting yourself out there. So he says, no, if I don't like it, I'll tell you what I don't like about it. So I sent it to him that night. The next morning, he rang me and said, we've got 3 teams that want to interview you. And that was just the start. So this is me trying to get a trading job at Goldman Sachs, negotiate my way in. Wasn't top of the class, didn't get perfect grades, just entrepreneurial, really. So the start of the process of getting in. So first thing was the phone round. So I'd sit on the phone, and on the other end, they would wheel people in rotation. So I stayed on the phone the whole time. You'd have back-to-back half-an-hour interviews.
Yeah.
And in these interviews, it's quite interesting to hear, I think, they try and push and pull you to see what you're made of. So they know you're smart. That's a prerequisite of like most of the
Yeah,
people
yeah.
that go in there.
Even
But
getting
how
there,
are you
right?
going to how are you going to handle yourself when you're under pressure and you're down and out? Or so they kind of say to me, so what do you think you're good at? In everyday life, you're kind of humble, aren't you? You kind of say, oh well, you could say this and just cut me up. No, cut all the crap. What are you actually good at then? So he pushed me, and I kind of said, well, maybe you might say that I could be good at this. And he said, oh, so you think you're brilliant, do you? Right? Like this, like this, just to
Yeah.
see if you're going to react, if you're going to be a knee-jerk reaction, the
Yeah.
markets will do exactly the same thing to you. So they
Yeah.
will make you feel sky
Right.
high, and then the minute that you're slightly too over the top, they will knock you back down to ground. And then you'd have people that you'd have one. So the next person would pick up the phone on the other end, and they'd ask me the same question that the person before had. So I would go and give the same answer because it was the truth.
Yeah.
And they'd say, "You've already spoke about this. Why are you repeating yourself?" Like this on the interview. So they're trying to push and pull. And then
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you get face to face, so then through the telephone interviews, you may get invited to kind of the face to face. It was all sorts of brain teasers, and we've got 1,000 bottles of wine, one of them's poisoned, and you've got 100 mice. The poison bottle of wine will poison a mouse. How many bottles of wine can you safely bring to the party? And there's like all these sorts of brain teaser questions. I'm thinking, I just risk my luck at this point. I just drink
What's
them
the answer
all.
to that one, by the way? Do you know the quick answer to that? Because I haven't got a clue. You got 100
Yeah,
mice and 1,000 mice.
yeah. So it was. I think so. To correct myself, 100 bottles of wine and 10 mice. And the answer that I had given is you would take 10 bottles of wine and pour them into a bucket, just a drop into one bucket, and then the next 100 bottles of wine into the second bucket. So you'd have
Yeah,
10
yeah.
buckets that each had 10 bottles of wine poured
And then
into
just
them,
keep narrowing it
and
down.
give them to the mice. And obviously, one of the mouse will die, and then the
Hmm.
remaining 90 bottles you could bring to the party. So that was my answer, but that wasn't good enough. And the actual answer involved binary code. So you drew this kind of table out, and it was like zeros
Oh,
and ones.
really? Yeah,
It was different combinations, and it was above me. It was above, it was above my maths
yours
degree.
is a good answer, right?
So yeah, so it was enough. Bringing 90 balls was enough to get the job. That was enough. So yeah, so then I started, and they'd offered me a job in London, in the equity index derivatives trading team, SPG
Hmm.
specifically. They flew us out to New York, so we had our training. I always say on Wall Street, but it's actually not on Wall Street. It's close by.
Right.
I think we're about 6 weeks out there, and it's like you're a kid in the candy store. You go from being a
Yeah, yeah.
student
Different world, right?
to totally different world, and everyone's
Mm.
from a totally different background. You've got some people that are literally bred for it, so maybe their parents have been involved in trading,
Hmm.
their parents.
Double-barreled
You
name,
know,
good school.
you know it exactly,
Mhm.
like pure pedigree for it. It would be a failure if you didn't make it. Um,
Yeah.
and there was, as I've said before, there was literally no one from Essex. I'm not quite sure why. A lot of young Essex men become stockbrokers, so they would
Hmm.
serve into us, and they would try and broker financial products. But trading
Yeah.
wise, there really wasn't many people at all. There was a lot of PAs perhaps from Essex, but yeah. So that was, and the whole journey of taking up space on a trading floor, and standing on your truth, and it was a really formative experience. I think the other thing that I would say is, it's totally meritocratic. So, if, you're only as good as your last decision.
Yeah.
Every year, pretty much, you're either promoted or you could be let go. There's no kind of resting on your laurels,
Yeah,
sitting,
yeah.
relaxing. You could be the best trader last year. If you have a terrible year this year, you've no
Yeah.
guarantee of staying the next year. So
That
yeah,
that
that
must
was
have held you
my
in good stead, though, right? That you're used to that pressure, and you've that that's a constant pressure on you. That must stand you in good stead now for financial services in general.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. To be in that environment anyway, you have to be like, you have to really good at handling pressure and just being calm
Yeah.
and level headed. But what really prepares you for that, honestly, I believe, is team sports. Like
Yeah.
if you do sports to any kind of level, and you're used to working together and drilling down as a team, but also just being resilient,
Yeah.
that will carry you through
I
quite
wrote
a
that
lot.
down as you were talking about earlier on, actually, about the connection of sports and finance and generally like competitiveness as well, right? And determination and all that. Like you say, resilience. Like you can get dropped in any team. You can be the
Absolutely.
best sports person in the world one year and you're dropped the next year, and you got to deal with that. So yeah, that really does, that shapes you, doesn't it?
Yeah. Did you play any sports?
I still play rugby, yes, not at the level that you played football, but yeah, I still get
Nice. You
beaten
get
up
it.
every occasionally. Yeah, 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 I love it. Yeah,
You get it. Yeah, totally, totally. It's and I think there's something about pushing your body, like doing things you don't want to do. Like viscerally, your body wants to stop,
mm,
whether you're exercising or you've played multiple games back to back, whatever it may be. There's something that kind of trains your mindset that carries you very well. And with trading, it's pure resilience. Like anyone can handle intense stress for a day. What you really get
yeah,
paid for is being able to come back day after day after day after day for years and still make the same consistent decisions. And
yeah,
you're at your desk at 7 a.m. The book that I was trading was a global book, so we had a trader in Hong Kong, one in New York, and two in London. And so we would come in, and the trader would hand the book to us. We would trade. In theory, we'd trade until the LSE, London Stock Exchange, would close. In
yeah.
practice, we'd also close out a lot of the time the New York Stock Exchange. So it would be
Hmm.
three of us, the New York trader, all trading the same book, serving global clients. So you could be
Right.
leaving at consistently 7, 8 p.m. at night and traveling back to Essex, getting back at 9:30, 10 p.m. So that
Back to
resilience and
seven.
mindset, yeah, a bit of a slog it was, yeah.
Yeah. But
um,
you know what? I liken that to obviously trading is right at the top of your game, but it's also running a business because
Totally,
like you can be good for a week. Do you know what I mean? You can
yeah,
handle the pressure for a week. I think the people that are in it for a long time, it's just the consistent mindset of like some days are shit. You've just got to get on with it. Like it's the handling of the pressure as opposed to, like you say, anyone can handle pressure for a day, but very very different if you're doing it week in week out, year on year out. I think that's the difference maker.
totally agree with you, totally. And I don't know if
Mm.
you find this, but I find the business is a reflection of where I'm at. So if I'm consistent, if I'm following my whoop and I'm exercising and I'm sleeping well and I'm front footed in my life generally, the business is too. Maybe that's a function of being a smaller business as well and we're just starting out.
Mm.
But
Yeah,
it's a total reflection. If you're not consistent, the business will be inconsistent. So
yeah.
totally agree with you.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
consistent, and it sounds boring, right? I'd say this to people before when they're talking about setting up their businesses, and they go, What do you need?" And you want to see all this cool stuff, and you just go, "Just got to be consistent. You've just literally got to turn up
yeah,
every day and do the same things really well, and get a
yeah.
little bit better at it every week." There's no magic sauce. It's just constant.
Totally. And depending what your USP is, I think delivering a service consistently will always outperform an inconsistent but excellent service that's totally, you
Yeah,
get it great sometimes or not. Think of like McDonald's. Is their food
yeah,
amazing?
yeah,
No, but their distribution and processes is amazing.
yeah.
And figuring that out
Consistent.
in a service based industry where with an increasing role of tech as well is some of the big challenges that, we're going to start to compete with, I think.
100%.
Um,
Sorry, I went off on a tangent then. So, how did you go from trading to then where we are now in commercial finance?
Yeah, so I was traded for 5 years at Goldman,
Yeah,
and it was an amazing formative 5 years. I had always felt that I wanted to run my own business, and the opportunity presented itself. So I'd basically, I had some knowledge in property. I've been in property investor myself. My family too have been involved in property, and I felt that property finance married quite well.
yeah.
So I literally just decided one day I was going to set up a mortgage brokerage. 27, had no clue how to do that, to be honest. Made a few calls and I actually spoke with New Leaf Distribution, Dan Hobbs, and I'd seen that they kind of have a pathway to having your own AR. Called him and he said, "Look, great to speak to you, but you need to have your CMAP qualification." I said, "What's a CMAP?" So I'm still working at this time full time, and next day bought the qualification. You get the digital textbooks and stuff. And after work, finished at 8, stayed in the office till gone midnight, started studying, and I thought, 9-month qualification. I can't do this for 9 months. It's brutal. Yeah, back at my desk at like 6:45 in the morning,
Yeah,
studying
yeah.
past midnight. So I just booked the exam for a few weeks' time and absolutely just put my head down and just kamikazed it, as you might call it.
You know what? That's exactly the
Worked.
way I did my CMAT. There was no way I was going
Did
to sit
you?
there and study for a year. I just
Yeah,
banged it out in 2 weeks because I could not. I just got to read
literally.
it, and I'm quite lucky because I was in the industry already, so I knew a
Uh-huh.
lot of it. But on the course I did for people who I don't know anything about it, that's a tough gig, right? Because you just even the terminology. I understand the terminology, so it made things easier, even if you're guessing. But
Yeah.
if you don't know everything, it's tough to go from no knowledge of it to try and pass them.
To try and do it. It's just memory retention, I guess. It's, just trying to cram it
Mm,
into your brain and stuff. And like you say, if you've
yeah.
got grounding, it helps. So the same thing as you, exactly. I was like, I'm not doing this for 12 months. Time's of the essence. So I booked the exam for 2 weeks. Called Dan Hobbs back. He said, "What I said, call me back when you've passed your CMAF." And I said, "I've done it." She's like, "Oh, all right." And so, and basically learned totally from scratch. No momentum, no client base, anything, just dropped myself in the deep end with it. So I'd resigned from Goldman and just got to
What
work.
did they
So
say when you said, "I'm just going to set up a brokerage"? I don't know. I haven't done it before. People like, did people think you were mad for giving up with a Goldman Sachs role to
yeah,
become
a lot of
self-employed?
people yeah, a lot of people, well, it's a real opportunity cost. And I'm not going to be the only
Yeah.
person who's quit something that has a real opportunity cost, but financially probably
And
the
just because
smarter
you
thing
worked
would,
so hard for it as well, like all the
yeah,
things you had to do to get there,
all the sunk
to
cost
take
of
that
it.
leap is
Yeah.
a big deal.
Literally decades. You work
Mm.
literally from all of your studies to through to, like, the latter end, and then 5 years in the job itself. It's a life of sacrifice to get anyone who's in those seats. I have great respect for, because
Yeah.
they're willing to do what a lot of people are not willing to do. That's why they sit there. Same as having a
Yeah.
successful business. Most people earn the right to have a successful business, but yeah, a lot of people, family included, close friends, and people at the firm were kind of, perplexed. It takes gumption, basically, I think, to leave it, and a lot. The easier thing to do is just to stay, and
Yeah.
financially it gets quite comfortable. But it depends if you want to feel alive or not. For me, I was just growing number and number,
Yeah.
sitting in the
Yeah.
seat, and I wanted more out
Money's
of it.
money's like
Goldman,
for only so long, doesn't it? Like you can only earn so much
yeah,
money, but if you're not
yeah,
fulfilled, it's a different nature.
yeah. The best thing about having money is not having to think about money. So there's much, you trade that money for time freedom, and that was the kind of
Mm.
trade that I decided, and it was the best trade I've probably ever made, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it was absolutely scary. But if you've got the mindset, you know that you can make something of it, and if not, you can always go back to finance. So if there's anyone listening that's thinking about it, I would absolutely recommend The Grass is Greener on the other side. For me, at least, it was.
Yeah, for
Um,
you. Just caveat that
for,
not everyone at Goldman Sachs give up your job now and set up a commercial brokerage. It doesn't always work.
yeah, please don't. My whole USP is swamped. yeah, yeah.
So talk to me about your first few years, or tell me about the kind of the accolades that you've got already. So how long's the business been going?
So business has in earnest. Last year was our first full year, 2024. So it's been going for in earnest for a year and 4 months. Technically founded about 2.5 years ago. But it takes a while to get your FCA
Yeah,
permissioning, as everyone will know. I'm
yeah,
glad I
yeah.
had no idea what was involved with that before I started, because you might not
Do you think that's
start.
the beauty of being like kind of naive into it? Because
Yeah.
you don't know all the shit, so you don't like you know what I mean. You get the benefit of just kind of starting afresh with a view on like, oh, it's great, everything's going to be good. Like
That's my
you don't speak
superpower.
to people about that, is it?
Yeah, my naivety, I've turned it to my superpower,
I
because
like
I
that.
don't know anything. I have to learn everything. And,
Yeah,
brokers will listen to this and know the minute that you rest on your laurels and you think you understand a lender policy and you say, that's not going to be possible, or there's no way to do it, the minute that you do that, someone else will find a way to do it. And so
yeah,
having that hunger and lack of knowledge, like, I don't know, but I'm going to call every lender in the panel. Some people are thinking that's very inefficient. Yes, but that's how I've been able to scale out the service that we're providing. And, the
yeah.
growth of the business has been built on getting things over the line that other people have not been able to. So yeah, to your point, using naivety as a strength.
Yeah, it does. It does work. Do you know what? Similar in recruit. I'd never worked for a recruitment company, so I don't
Really?
know what it's like to do it properly. Yeah, so you
Yeah.
just learn. You know what I mean? You just do the thing that you think works. But
It forces
yeah,
you to think outside the box sometimes because you haven't
exactly.
got a
Yeah, it forces you
grounding
to
on
learn,
what's
like you said.
possible. Yeah, absolutely.
So talk to me. And we won't go through the financial side of things, but you're safe to say that you have been very successful in your first couple of years, right? Talk to me about the accolades that you're up for at the moment. Tell me, again, we don't talk money on here, but you've done really well. You know, for starting from scratch, it's incredible. But tell me
Thank you
about
for that.
the kind of the awards and stuff that you're up for at the moment, or the things you've been recognised for.
Thank you. Yeah, this is turning into a. I'm sure I'm gonna watch this back and cringe at being very like self-promoting. But
You know what? Everyone finds it really hard to talk about themselves on this because they do
yeah,
say like how are you so successful so quickly, and it is uncomfortable, but that's what the podcast is about.
sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. So yes, we have. It's funny because you work really hard and all the accolades are more of a symptom of the service that we're providing. So they kind of come with a lag. So you feel like you're being kind of rewarded for work that we did last year, and
Already
hopefully
done.
next year we'll reap the rewards of this year. But we've recently won Best Newcomer to the industry for 2025. We are also up with the FT Advisor and the Financial Reporter, two separate awarding bodies for Rising Star to the industry. We're a finalist in those at the time of recording, so we'll see how that pans out. I've also won Best Newcomer to the network. Well, I suspect. Depends when this comes out. Whether I should have
What is
said
that?
that or not.
By the way,
Yeah.
this goes out on Monday, so
Oh,
we
brilliant.
better
So I'm not yet. I'm not yet the. A little bird might have told me. So yes,
someone
sorry. I'm
who's coming
gonna.
second goes, well, that's done me then. I thought I was getting that. No, it's funny. Don't
Whoops.
worry, not everyone at New Leaf listens to this.
But we've had that's good. Yeah, hopefully. So yeah, and I think so. New Leaf is it's got hundreds of ARs. In our first year, we placed within the top 10 ARs in terms of total
Amazing.
billing. We had the largest ticket that the network has seen. And what's interesting, recently I've started to be asked to do, kind of content type gigs. So I spoke recently on the Financial Times podcast
You
about,
got asked to come on a very famous podcast as well, which is quite important. That's
yeah,
much more. That's much bigger than the
NRG
financial.
resourcing. Yeah, and this is the pinnacle. This is
Yeah, yeah.
this
It's
is
the
what
top
I'm
of your
most
game.
buzzing about.
It doesn't get better than this. Like all
It
of the
does.
articles and stuff in the FT doesn't matter. This is it.
I'm going to start applying for
But that's
Falling Star. Falling Star from here. It's all downhill. Um, so yeah, so there's been some interesting stuff, and it's growing out the brand. I think what's exciting to me now is scaling out the infrastructure of the business so that we can scale the delivery of the service, and spending a lot of time. We're a junior business. We don't pretend to be larger than what we are. We're looking to kind of hire and take on hungry, ambitious people that want to make a difference in their personal lives, but also to the development commercial space in the UK. I think it's an
yeah,
amazing time to be in this space. It's very innovative. There's new lenders appearing by the day. The competition from lenders is fierce, and they're willing to push the boundaries. For the right borrower profile, the right property profile, you can get very creative, and it's fascinating. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm absolutely loving it. And yeah, hopefully we're
Well,
speaking.
I
Yeah,
know we talked about this before off screen, but the growth of your business will be based around you because your story is great, and actually, you haven't just got a good story and not backed it up. You know what I mean? You've come in and, like you say, top 10, and you're a small business. You're a lot smaller than some of those businesses in your network as well. So I think it's going to be relatively easy to learn off you. Do you know what I mean? Instead of I don't think like your naivety or your youth in the industry is going to be an advantage as opposed to kind of people that have been in it a very long time and want to add to their business. I think it'd be much easier for you.
hope so. I think that the fundamental quality behind that is being dynamic, nimble, and disruptive. We're genuinely trying to push the boundaries, taking some of the concepts as well. So, equity derivatives, what I was trading, they were effectively secured and unsecured lending and finding creative packages to get deals over the line. And we've done
Yeah,
I would say some of that structuring element we've been able to bring across into the property market, such as 100% loan to cost solutions, such as, you know, these are not novel concepts, but they can make the difference between deals getting over the line and not.
Yeah.
So, you know, delayed exchange and completion, getting planning consent in between exchange and completion, then get lending against the OMV that's consented, so that we can get, you know, 90% net of the purchase price. All these
Yeah.
kind of really quirky ways to structure deals is really what's making it.
And you've
Well,
had to
number
learn all
one,
that as well. It sounds like you've been doing it for years. Do you know what I mean? It is. You probably don't see it because you're around you every day. But to listen to you like you've been doing it for 10, 15 years on how to structure deals and stuff is very impressive. And obviously that's why it's going so well.
thank you. Yeah, comes from an interest and just learning, asking questions. So
Yeah, yeah. You're a good learner, right? You go from your grades, but you've got to be interested in it as well, like you said. I think people come in because they want to earn a few quid, and actually, like again we talked about earlier, but money is the symptom of the hard work that you put in, or money is the symptom of the learning and the growth, isn't it? It's not. I want to do commercial finance to make more money. You had a good job, so you're kind of.
absolutely.
It's a good example for people, right, that are joining or setting up their own business.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, to your point, if it wasn't about the money for me, you know, I would have made a different decision if I was solving for money. This is
Yeah,
about generating value for genuinely doing interesting, purposeful work, having creative structures, and then applying yourself and being able to you know, we have a housing crisis in the UK. You know, we need to be building more houses. Labour have addressed it. You know, we need to be building more houses. There are so many deals that don't get over the line through poor negotiation and perhaps poor brokering too. And
yeah,
that is a problem that needs to be solved. Lenders are game. Lenders are willing to push the boundaries. You know, the increasing role of tech. You know, you can get lending without value. Someone even visiting the site now. You know, they're willing to, as long as they've got ample security, they're willing to find creative ways around it. And I think the role of the broker is becoming ever more important, particularly in the specialist space.
100%. Especially in commercial. I think
Yeah.
a lot is getting more automated when it comes to very vanilla resi, but even that, there's not much. A lot of those are complex now with the way people are paid, etc. But commercial, 100%. I think we're a
Yeah.
long way off of losing our jobs to AI when it comes to the commercial side of things.
I think so. Yeah, and also because I've been speaking with, I've been speaking with lenders about this because, you know, there's an element of systemization when they bring on new underwriters into their business. They'll train them a workflow. So there is a thought process that to a certain extent can be systematized. But in almost
Yeah,
all lending decisions, there's someone somewhere who has a gut feel that says yes or no. And sometimes all the dots on the page can align, and if they just feel like something's off, it can be a no.
right. Yeah, yeah.
So
Much the
yeah,
same
I
as you can
think
get a decision overturned with an underwriter, but you can't get it overturned with an algorithm because
yeah.
you can't explain the nuances of the client, or you can't explain whatever it is the deals they've done in the past that work. There's so many different moving parts to commercial that I don't think, for now anyway. I mean, it will always happen in the future, but it's very hard to systemize all of it without
What
having a
I do
human at the end.
what I do think though, with the dispersion of AI and decentralization, you know, it's giving power at everyone's fingertips. The
Yeah.
cost or price of intelligence is going to zero,
Hmm.
where traditionally the price of intelligence is probably the highest it's ever been right now. I can see the price of intelligence going to zero. And at that point, where do you as a borrower look for sound advice? Where it's people you trust, it's people who are creative and can structure deals. I can see there being a concentration of talent towards the best advisors in the
Yeah.
industry, and those advisors, their service being leveraged by a really robust infrastructure behind them that's underpinned by tech. So I can
Yeah.
see, you know, if you are sitting in the industry right now and you're just using sourcing software and you aren't applying, which by the way, I don't think any broker is. I think I've never, even in simple resi cases, I've never had a simple case ever. Ever, ever, ever. There always is some nuance somewhere, you know. But if you are heavily reliant and the value that you're really adding is marginalized, I think that you're most at risk in our industry.
Yeah.
And I can see
And
that
there
there
are
will be,
those. We are going to lose those people who aren't willing to change.
yeah,
it's the blockbuster scenario, isn't it? If you don't see it
Yeah,
until it's too late. People,
yeah,
I've always done it like this. Is the worst thing you can say in business, right? Because the things that, especially with finance and tech, the way it's changing so quickly, we've constantly got to look at how we can kind of better ourselves with the tech as opposed to it's working with us, right? Not against us.
you have to. Yeah, you have to be using it somehow in your business, and there's all sorts of ways. Lenders are starting to. Although I was speaking with a senior business development manager at Lloyd's just the other day, and they were saying everyone thinks that these kind of AVMs, desktops are novel and new, and it's tech, and isn't it amazing? They're saying back in the 2000s, we were able to get an offer out the same day, is what they were telling me.
They
So they
also
could.
crashed the market back then as well.
There you go.
It was very easy back then,
Yeah,
and they also give away 110% mortgages, which doesn't mean it was any
110.
better.
You know what? We're not. You're starting to see some similar 100% mortgages at least, or 99%.
Yeah,
So
yeah. We won't go back to where we were, but yeah, it's
no,
interesting when they go. We always used to do that. I don't think pre 2008 you can use as a good example.
I know. But the wholesale lenders. So the whole specialist lending market. You've got what I would call franchise lenders who are
Yeah.
refranchising other people's money, high net worths,
Hmm.
credit funds, or wholesale lenders themselves, being like your Barclays, your Shawbrooks,
Yeah,
etc.,
yeah,
etc. The whole idea behind, so what happened after the financial crisis, 2007, 2008, introduction of the Basel III framework. Okay, all banks now that are doing specialist lending, for every pound lent, they have to hold additional funds as margin, so that
yeah,
if there is a collapse, they've got this margin that hopefully will eliminate systemic risk between
yeah,
between banks, like when Lehman went bang. So, for development finance, it can be up to, for every pound lent, you've got to hold £1.50 as additional
yeah.
margin. So if you're scaling a bank-based specialist lending firm, that becomes extremely inefficient allocation of capital, as opposed to, other things where every pound lent, there's no margin required. So you
Pounds.
can
Yeah.
deploy the whole other £1.50 into something else. But the way that a lot of banks are getting around it, I notice now, as I'm speaking with lenders every day, is those wholesale lenders, the banks themselves, are just distributing into franchise lenders via wholesale
Someone else
friending
is
line.
giving out slightly higher
Exactly.
interest rate.
Exactly. So they're just the franchise lenders just buying and selling cash, but
Yeah.
you could argue, if we think that we've solved systemic risk, there is absolutely systemic risk
Moved it a bit
between.
further down the line.
Yes, just maybe it's portioned up, across
Yeah,
many
yeah.
different
There's
smaller lenders.
270 lenders now using five people's money, so but at least it doesn't look like there's five people lending.
This is it. At least the five
Yeah.
banks are not linked to each other directly. So,
Yeah.
so
So let's talk about. I mean, we went through the tech, and obviously you've clearly learned your trade very quickly. But relationship-wise, customer-wise, going from zero clients on your first day to
mhm.
having a successful business by your second year, talk to me about that process. How did you get them? How did you start? How did you get the ball rolling? Because lots of people will look at this and go, "Oh, cool! I'll just start a brokerage." But obviously, it's the swan thing, isn't it? Your legs are going mad underneath while you're looking composed at the
Mhm.
top. Talk to me
Mhm.
about how
Literally, how
that
could
was.
you tell? My legs are kicking under.
Heads moving.
Yeah. Um, um, yeah. So this is the stuff I love. I love all of it. Like the story is just I like the pain of it, because it
Yeah.
was very, it was not an easy process. So on my first day of starting, once I was qualified to be able to speak with clients, I decided that I was going to doorstep every estate agency that I could in the local vicinity. And I'd done, very geeky of me, I'd done every kind of local town, how many estate agents there were in each town. Okay, it'll be effective if I drive to these. So in my first day, I went to 53 estate agencies in one day, put my dress on, put my heels on. Also, as a footballer in heels, that's not the one for me.
With
Yeah,
studs
that's
on the
the
front just to keep yourself steady.
yeah, that's the biggest slog bit for me, was trotting around in my heels. But I literally would walk in, and I remember sitting outside my first one, because you're not built with this kind of confidence or gumption.
Hmm.
I remember standing outside the first estate agency and going, "Come on, come on, you got to go in there,"
Yeah.
just to have the
How many
gumption
times you
to do
walk to
it.
the door and walk away again? Just up,
Yeah.
out, and go in.
Yeah, literally. So I was like, but you did. I walked in and I said, "Hi, I'd love to introduce myself. I have my own brokerage. Just wondering, do you have a relationship with a mortgage broker already?" And they said, very nice to meet you, but yes, we do. We already have. No worries, not looking to tread on anyone's toes. Could I take a card though? Yes. Send an email follow-up. No response. So I did that to 50, I think it was 53 or 54 in my first day. All 50, let's say it's 53, 52 of them said no to me. And the 53rd that I walked in, and as I walked in, right at the end of the day, I could see there was a glass box of a mortgage broker in the estate agency. And it was my worst pitch. I went in and I said, oh, you know what, actually, I can see you've already got a broker relationship. Don't worry. He went, no. What were you going to say? And I said, well, here I am. Here's what we do. Was wondering if you'd like to partner. He said, you know what, actually, we're looking for another brokerage to
Actually, that
introduce
guy's
to.
rubbish. He just points to his glass box.
I don't know what was happening. I think it was resi. I started out as on the regulated side of things, and he was like, do you do buy to let? And I was like, yeah, I could do buy to let, obviously on the unreg side. And he said, look, that guy's very resi based, we're looking for buy to let, we're also opening up our own branch. So it was timing and fate, basically. It was my worst pitch. He said yes, and that's how it started. Now with that, I think the lesson in that is, you could have given up after the 37th estate agent that said no.
100%.
After the 43rd, you're thinking, I'm barking up the wrong tree here. I need to change my tact, right? You could have gone home and said, I'm starving, but no, you get a sandwich, you sit in your car, and then you keep going. And on the 53rd, someone said yes. And that was the start for my business. And, Introduces is a cracking way to start, I think, if you can get them and really foster that relationship, because it's symbiotic. As their business grows, so does yours. So one crucial thing to the success of our business has been introducer relationships, looking after, you're adding value long before you see any value back, and phrasing it even that way. How can I help grow your business? And that is investing time, if not resource, to that relationship. So that's been the case. Once you're off,
value add thing's massive, though, right? The value add thing's huge. You're asking something that other people aren't asking. Do you know what I mean? How can I help grow your business? How can I add value to your business as opposed to can I do your mortgages? It's a different mindset for them, isn't it? You're a partner. What
can I take versus what can I give to you? It's totally different, and people are generally open to those sorts of conversations. So yes, there's that, and then I think really looking after the client. And when you first start out, you get all the difficult cases. People literally throw you bones, and it's like, we've gone to 3 brokers, no one can get this over the line. So you can have a go at that if you like, and you've got to do the groundwork, and you've got to basically get it over the line, and then you build trust in that way, and you build trust with the client, also with your introducers. The more you look after your clients and do the difficult stuff for, at the start, relatively low return on time invested, very low return on time invested, but you start to build your brand out, and now it's pretty much all word of mouth referral. So
that's not just introducing now, right? That's straight to developer, straight to investor.
Yes, developer to developer, commercial to commercial. If you find someone good, I think people like to kind of share that resource. As long as it doesn't impact their ability to access finance, they're quite happy to refer you on to other people.
Yeah. I think that's the definition of success as well. That people want you to succeed. You've got a good, you've got a good story. You clearly work hard. You've learned a lot in a short space of time. People will genuinely want to see you do well. And if that means giving you referrals to their mates, then that's the way. I only thought about this recently, and I think I said it. I think we talked about it the other day. There's a CEO of a bridging company, and he said to me, "We love working with you, and we really want you to succeed because we like you." And I thought, you don't think about that side of things. You actually think about, like, I think I'm helping them. They really want me to do well, which is a massive compliment. But it never really dawned on me that they want you to succeed as well. So that's a huge part. So they'll always refer you, but it's you've got to do the right thing for people as well, haven't you? As long as you're doing it, you don't get referrals from bad business, do you?
No, that's it. Being integral, being truthful, and being likable.
Do you know what? I was going to post about this the other day about being likable is something that genuinely I think is missed when we talk about like salespeople and business development. That you got to want to pick up the phone to someone, right? When the phone rings and their name comes up, you want to go, "Oh, cool! I want to speak to that person." I like to think that people are all right with speaking to me, but I don't want to be that person. Everyone's got those people you're looking and go, "Oh, That's going to voicemail. That's
Got to call them now.
Yeah, that's a car journey home conversation. But they're but that is an important part of sales, business development, finance, whatever you want to call it. It's big, isn't it? People have to want to work with you.
Absolutely. I think a lot of brokers as well, rephrase that. There are some brokers that miss that trick on the lending side as well. So I very much see our role as two-sided sales. You're looking after the client relationship, but also you've got a lender relationship there. Now, if you're speaking with, one lender may have, let's just say, 10 BDMs. One of those BDMs, perhaps in the office, will have greater pull over the decision maker. Maybe they've been working at the firm longer, maybe they're just well trusted, whatever it may be. There is such a skill in brokerage in knowing who you need to speak to and who do you need to look after, and vice versa. They're looking after us as well as we're clients to them.
It's that partnership thing. It's like people moaning about lenders online all the time. You're a partner.
Yeah.
We can't work without each other. It's like me moaning about my clients online. It's nuts. I think that people do it. It doesn't make any sense. We're all a partnership, right? We've all got to work together to do the best thing for the client.
100%. And it's human nature. If you really like someone, or someone's added value to you before, gone above and beyond, when it comes to it, if you really need to get the loan over the line, or you need, there's a particular bargaining point, PGs, debentures, whatever it may be, you can leverage that relationship. And everyone's at it. Let's not pretend. Clients are leveraging our relationships. Lenders are leveraging our relationships. Everyone's at it. To call a spade, but just to enjoy the work that you do. If you want to be in the industry for 20 years, you've got to build long-standing relationships and treat people right. So I totally agree with you. Don't know why you'd ever slander anyone.
It's the long term. So it's the long term thinking, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like I always said this the other day. Like it's such a long journey. Like if people don't want to work with us right now, I'd never fall out of anyone. I've never had that, or people think, whatever it is, your fees or what. I just think it's a journey. But if I thought that I'm not going to make any money out of you right now, I'd have no relationships. Some of the people, my best relationships now, are people that didn't work with me for 4 or 5 years, but we constantly spoke. We constantly had that relationship, and I think it's nuts that people go, especially in this day and age, it's instant gratification. Like if I can't make money out of you now, I'm not interested. You've really got to think longer term.
You have to, because if it becomes too transactional, if your business is transactional, there will be some technology firm that comes and is better at being transactional than you are. So
we're not the best transactors, but the best relationship builders. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. We're relational, so that's our USP as humans.
Amazing. So I've kept you way longer than I thought I would, but I could genuinely talk to you. I think it's genuinely interesting conversation. I hope people see that as well, because even when we first spoke the other day, just your journey from football to investment banking, I would love to talk about the links between those as well, just about your discipline and that kind of thing, and your hard work. I have kept you for longer than I said I would, but if you could give a bit of advice, this would be my last question. If you could give any bit of advice to someone who maybe not in the same boat as you, that's come from a very nice job, but someone who is looking to step out on their own and kind of take that plunge, what are the things they need, if you like? Because obviously we can give away the normal pitch of working hard and stuff, but what do they need in their skill set to be successful?
In their skill set, fine. I was going to say be well researched, so be well informed before you make that decision, exactly your steps. I think the true determinant of success is, I'm going to pull it back to an Australian phrase, I lived out there for a while, is lick the frog, right? So a lot of people look at the frog, the thing that you need to do, whether that's frog marching estate agents, whether that's calling introducers, whether it's studying your CMAP. The core essence of why we've been successful is because we bite the bullet and get it done as soon as possible. Fail faster, try it, iterate, fail faster than what you are. So that's, if I had to distill it down to one thing, I would say lick the frog, do it, try it, fail, and then move on.
I have no idea what the benefit of licking the frog is, but I do like the phrase. Is that to check if you can get high off it? That's the only thing I can really do.
It's an Aussie phrase.
Bite the bullet. I think we use.
Bite the bullet on this side of the pond.
No, I'll be licking frogs. But
There we go.
I appreciate that, and genuinely thank you for your time, Kelsey. It's been really interesting. Like I said, I will get you on again because you're here for the long term as well, aren't you? You know, this is
Yes.
I'll be interested to see, and hopefully other people will be interested to see how your journey carries on because you know it started extremely well. So, and I genuinely wish you the best as well because I think the story's great, and I love when new people come into the industry and they actually give a shit and they want to learn and they want to do the right thing. It's amazing for us. I've been in it a long time, and you probably don't see it yet, but you are few and far between. So I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
That's all right, no
Thank
problem.
you.
Hey, no problem at all. Genuinely enjoyed it, and thank you for everyone watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify. That's been another episode of NRG Insights. Cheers, Kelsey.
Thank you.